You are watching your wife being led away by the most powerful man on earth, and the worst part is not that you cannot stop it.
I'll return.
The worst part is that you must pretend this is normal. Your hands rest on the table as if they belong to someone else. Your smile is a mask stitched to your face by fear. Around you, dozens of senators sit with their wine cups half raised, frozen in the moment between swallowing and choking. The red liquid trembles, rippling like a tiny sea of blood. No one speaks, because speech is evidence. No one moves, because movement is interpreted. Even breathing feels like an opinion. Minutes pass like years. You count them not by time, but by the tightening in your stomach, by the sweat gathering under your collar, by the sound of distant laughter that might be directed at you next.
Look at you,
When he finally returns, he does not hand her back like property returned to its shell.
I wonder how long you can maintain.
He sits beside you as if he belongs there. He pours himself wine with a casual, practiced motion, and the sound of liquid striking the cup lands in the silence
While the glory
like a
days
hammer
have
on
faded,
bone.
the echoes of
Then
the
he begins
Empire
calmly,
still resonate
clinically in
among
front of
these
your
stones.
peers to
It's a
describe what he
history
did
carved in
behind the
marble
closed door.
and blood.
He does it as if he is reciting a menu. Your colleagues stare at their plates. Your wife stares at nothing. And you nod. You thank him. Because the alternative is not dignity. The alternative is the death of your children and the knowledge that your family line ends because you refuse to smile at the right moment. Welcome to Medieval Spirits. If you want history told like evidence, not legend like subscribe and ring the bell, today we are not discussing an emperor as a meme or a punchline.
We must move quickly before...
We are dissecting the anatomy of a terror machine built with intent maintained through ritual and powered by the simplest fuel on earth, human fear.
Keep those pillars steady, men!
The man at the center of that machine is Caligula, and the most frightening thing about him is not whether he was insane. It is how effectively his cruelty could be converted into policy, habit, and social collapse. This is the part most people get wrong. They imagine Caligula as a single madman acting on impulse, striking out in chaotic violence, like a storm that arrived without warning and vanished when it passed. That story is comforting because it suggests an easy solution: remove the madman and the world heals. But Rome under Caligula was not a storm. It was a factory, a system designed to manufacture obedience by grinding down the human soul, one social bond at a time.
Poison takes hold.
And to understand how the factory was built, you have to go back to the child who learned fear before he learned mercy. Picture the Roman frontier in the early 1st century. The air smells of leather sweat and wet earth.
He knows
a
about
military
the
camp in
gold.
Germania
We
is
have to
not a home,
silence
but
him
a
tonight.
moving machine
Are you
of discipline.
mad? If
In
we
the
are
middle
caught,
of it
we face
runs
the
a small
Gracchi's
boy
fate.
wearing a miniature uniform, tiny armor, and little boots dyed the color of command. The soldiers lift him onto their shoulders, call him Caligula Little Boots. He is not a prince to them. He is a talisman. The son of Germanicus, the general Rome adored the way later ages adored conquerors and saints.
The legions are north.
Germanicus was charisma made flesh, a man whose presence made legions feel invincible. In those camps, young Gaius grows up believing that love is loud, public, and unconditional because men who have survived slaughter chant your name and feed you like you are their shared child. Then the world changes in a way a child cannot process. Germanicus dies, while still young, and Rome immediately splits into official truth and whispered truth.
Look at
Officially,
the emperor,
it is
frozen
illness.
like a statue.
Privately, it is
Does
poison.
he not approve of our
Privately,
festivities?
it is politics. In an empire where succession is never clean, the death of a popular hero is not just a tragedy. It is a warning. For Caligula, it is the first time he learns that safety can evaporate overnight and that the people who smile at you today can sign your death tomorrow.
Have you ever seen the sea look so
What
vibrant,
follows is
Lydia?
not one family
It is
death, but
truly
systematic
breathtaking,
erasure.
mistress.
His mother, Agrippina the Elder, is accused of treason and dragged into exile. His brothers are destroyed, one by one, imprisoned, starved, broken, reduced to rumors of suffering so humiliating that even repeating them feels like cruelty. This is not just grief, it is conditioning. A child watches the Empire do this to his bloodline and learns a lesson that is carved deeper than any moral education. Power is not law, power is permission. Power decides what is true. Power decides who deserves to exist. By the time Caligula is a teenager, he has learned to survive by disappearing emotionally. He has learned that sincerity is dangerous, that grief is incriminating,
He said the augurs
and that anger is a
consulted the
confession
chickens,
you did
and the
not
chickens
intend
said,
to make.
"Peck."
He becomes the last surviving son of Germanicus, a living symbol too popular to kill openly, but too dangerous to leave free. So the Empire does what empires do with symbols they fear.
Your
It
incompetence threatens
them.
the stability
And
of
the
Rome.
cage has a name, Capri.
Do not try my patience
Capri
further.
is beautiful in the way a
Bastard
blade can be
vermin.
beautiful,
You missed a
polished,
spot
gleaming,
near
and
my
designed
sandal.
to cut. Emperor
He cleans
Tiberius
well.
has
A
withdrawn
toast to
there,
our
far from the
entertainment.
Senate, far from the crowds of Rome, far from the eyes that might judge him. Power becomes private on Capri, and private power is always more dangerous than public power because it has fewer witnesses. Ancient writers describe the island as a place where paranoia and indulgence
Our investments
fermented
in the
together.
new roads are already paying
Whether
dividends
every
across
rumor
the
is
province.
true is not
Truly,
even the
Senator,
point.
the Republic
The
prospers
point
under your
is that
guidance.
people believed
Well
the
done.
rumors because Rome had already learned what emperors could do when no one was watching.
They crawl.
Into that environment
No,
walks
keep
a
them away.
teenage Caligula carrying the memory of his murdered family like a weight inside his ribs.
They whisper
He knows
treason in the
what
Senate.
Tiberius represents.
Do they not know I
He knows
am a
what
god?
happened to his mother and
I
brothers.
am Jupiter,
He
and I
knows
will
what one
crush
wrong
them
sentence
all.
could trigger. So, he does not resist. He studies. He becomes an expert in
No,
what tyrants
please.
crave: affirmation, amusement,
Quiet.
obedience without
Enough of this
visible
noise.
resentment. He learns to wear a face that reveals nothing. He learns to praise without sincerity and to agree without belief. He learns that the safest man in a court is the one whose emotions cannot be read. There is a line attributed
Enough
to the
with the
sources
tears.
that captures the horror
You
of
will
his training.
smile in the forum.
He became the perfect servant. That is not a compliment. That is a diagnosis. A perfect servant in a tyranny is someone who has amputated
You
their
find the
inner life to
authority of
survive.
Rome amusing, do you?
Caligula watches the
You
mechanisms
will
of fear
regret
up
this
close.
day.
He watches how a ruler isolates targets, how accusations are manufactured, how loyalty is tested through humiliation, how courtiers become accomplices because complicity is safer than decency. Capri is not just exile. It is education. Then, in 37 AD, Tiberius dies and the hostage becomes emperor. Rome erupts in celebration because it thinks it is getting the son of Germanicus, the beloved bloodline, restored. The city stages joy like a ritual because Romans are desperate to believe their pain is ending. And for a few months, it almost seems possible. Caligula begins with gestures that look like mercy public games, acts of generosity, a softer tone toward the Senate. He performs the role of good princeps, first citizen the emperor who pretends to share power. The people relax. The elite dare to hope. Hope is always the most dangerous moment in a tyranny, because hope makes the next betrayal feel like a personal assault.
In the Senate.
Then
All hail
Caligula
Incitatus.
falls violently ill. We will never know what happened inside his body during those fever days. The sources speculate, gossip, dramatize. But what matters is what happens afterward. The man who recovers is not the smiling promise Rome crowned. Something hardens. Something snaps into place. And Rome begins to realize that the emperor has stopped performing for them. He has started performing on them. This is where the machine becomes visible. Caligula does not simply punish enemies. He begins to experiment with control itself, like a man discovering he can pull levers that move an entire city's emotions. One of the most chilling early patterns is his use of grief as policy. Whether the most lurid details are true or embellished, the shape of the tactic is consistent. He takes private experience and forces the public to participate in it under threat. When someone close to him dies, the Empire does not just mourn. The Empire obeys. Mourning becomes compulsory. Everyday life becomes criminalized in ways that make citizens hyper-aware of their own faces, their own voices, their own laughter.
My word is law.
In a healthy society, laughter is harmless. Under a tyrant, laughter is suspicious. A smile can be interpreted as disrespect. A casual joke can be interpreted as treason. Caligula turns basic human reflexes into risk. That is not random cruelty. That is the deliberate creation of self-policing. If the population can be made to fear their own expressions, the tyrant no longer needs to watch everyone. They watch themselves. This is the first gear of his machine: legislate emotion, then punish failure to perform the correct emotion. It teaches a crucial lesson. The Emperor does not merely rule actions. He rules the inner life. Once that boundary is crossed, the Empire becomes a psychological prison. Citizens begin to calculate every gesture. Families train children not to react naturally. Friendship becomes fragile because you cannot be sure whether the person laughing with you today will repeat your words tomorrow as evidence. Caligula then expands the experiment. If he can control grief and joy, he can control honor. And in Rome, honor is oxygen. A senator can endure poverty, exile, even injury, but public shame is social death. Caligula begins to treat the aristocracy's reputation as a resource he owns. He can inflate it or destroy it on a whim. He can promote a nobody and degrade a lineage that has existed for centuries.
Cheer up, old friend.
The message is simple. The past does not protect you.
Yes,
Your name does not protect you. Only his mood protects you. And when he realizes that the machine moves to its next stage, Act 2 of the machine is humiliation converted into bureaucracy. Ancient sources claim Caligula turned the palace into a marketplace of degradation, and even if later writers exaggerated the specifics, the underlying pattern is consistent with what tyrants do when they discover shame is more effective than a sword. He does not need to kill everyone. He needs to make everyone feel killable. He needs to make everyone feel owned. Imagine living in a society where your family's status is your identity, where your wife's respectability reflects your standing, where your daughter's future marriage is political currency.
I am a Roman citizen.
Now imagine the emperor treating that currency as his personal coin. The terror is not only what happens behind closed doors. The terror is that everyone knows it happened, and everyone knows you could not stop it. In that world, honor stops being a shield and becomes a vulnerability, because the more you care about dignity, the more easily dignity can be stolen. This is why the banquet scene matters. It is not just scandal. It is engineering. A private violation is horrific, but it can be denied, hidden, compartmentalized. A private violation described publicly is different. It is designed to infect the social environment. It forces witnesses into complicity. It makes every listener a participant because their silence is part of the ritual.
I have missed you both.
The Emperor
dearly.
does not merely dominate the
Welcome
victim.
home,
He
Father.
dominates the room by forcing everyone to accept the unacceptable. That acceptance becomes training. After enough repetitions, people stop being shocked. They start being careful. The shift from shock to caution is where tyranny becomes stable.
With the voice of a
And
woman.
the Emperor does not even have to threaten openly every time. The threat is built into memory. Everyone has seen what happens when someone reacts wrong. A flinch can be read as contempt. A protest can be read as treason. Even pity can be dangerous, because pity suggests the Emperor is cruel, and recognizing cruelty is a form of disloyalty. So you smile. You nod.
They plan to poison the
You
senator
thank
at the
him.
feast.
The performance
Are you
becomes
certain?
I overheard
survival.
them myself.
But
We must
Caligula's
warn
machine
him.
is not satisfied with shame alone. Shame breaks pride. It does not always break love, so he targets love next. Act 4 is the destruction of grief, the denial of the most basic human response to loss. The sources describe Caligula's cruelty toward those around him with a pattern that feels less like rage and more like a scientist testing limits.
The
He
legions
executes
must move by
exiles,
dawn, or
confiscates,
we
and
lose
then
the
he
advantage.
watches.
The Senate will question
Not just
this.
to
Are you
intimidate, but
certain
to
of
study.
his loyalty?
He
We've
looks for the
confirmed
moment
route.
a person collapses internally. He looks for the exact pressure point where a human being stops being a human being and becomes a puppet.
If
There
we
are
are to
accounts
save
of
the
forced
Republic, we
attendance
must
at
act
executions
now.
of families made to watch the ruin of their own blood of victims,
we agree?
compelled to dine, to laugh, to speak politely, after their loved ones are destroyed. Whether every anecdote is literally accurate, the machinery is psychologically plausible because it matches what coercive systems do. They do not merely remove your loved ones. They remove your right to respond like someone who is loved. That is the deepest theft. A tyrant can take property. A tyrant can take life. But when a tyrant takes your grief and replaces it with forced performance, he colonizes your interior world. He makes your face a billboard for his power. Your smile becomes proof that his cruelty has become normal. Caligula's cruelty also spreads through money because money is a pressure point that touches every household.
We cannot allow this law
Rome's
to pass.
imperial
Speak
court
of
is
madness
expensive.
when the city burns
Games,
because of your
gifts,
inaction.
bribes,
We demand a vote
construction,
immediately.
spectacle. When finances tighten, the tyrant needs revenue and nothing raises money faster than fear. Confiscations multiply. Charges of treason become
Please,
convenient.
I beg you.
Wealthy
Do
men
not
suddenly
harm
become
me.
enemies of the
I did
state and their
nothing.
estates become imperial property. Under that logic, the emperor's paranoia becomes an economic model. The more frightened the elite are, the more likely they are to offer gifts, loans, and obedience. The machine feeds itself. And while senators and nobles suffer, another group watches closely: the Praetorian Guard. The men with swords who stand nearest the emperor are not philosophers. They are not moralists.
The price of
They are
grain will
professionals.
surely rise again this
They
month.
understand power
We
physically.
must secure the next
They
shipment
understand that
before
if the emperor
others.
becomes unstable enough, their own
Citizens,
survival is threatened.
Consider this.
Caligula forgets
glory
that
of
a terror
Rome
machine
rest
has
on
a
our
basic
legions,
weakness. It
or the
depends on the
justice
loyalty
of
of,
our
the armed
laws?
men who stand closest to the lever. This is the fatal flaw. Caligula humiliates senators because senators are trained to swallow
We must
humiliation.
secure the grain shipments from
They have
Egypt.
families,
Otherwise,
estates, and
the
long-term
price controls
strategies.
will fail.
They
The
can
Senate
endure
must
indignity if
understand
it
the
keeps their
urgency.
children alive.
Hail, citizens!
But the Praetorians are
Show
different.
your favor
Their
and
culture
join
is not
us for
built
the
on
grand
speeches.
spectacle.
It is built
You
on
won't
respect,
wanna miss
hierarchy,
this.
and controlled violence. Mockery inside a military system is not harmless. It is corrosive. It tells a soldier he is not
Come, my
safe
lady.
even in
The
his
Emperor
professional
requires
identity.
entertainment.
But my husband!
Cassius Chaerea, a senior
Unhand her, you
Praetorian officer,
tyrant!
becomes the perfect example of the limit Caligula does not understand. The sources say Caligula mocked him relentlessly, publicly, repeatedly, with the casual cruelty of a man who believes he is untouchable. Some details are repeated because they illustrate a psychological truth: daily humiliation is not entertainment to the target. It is a slow poisoning.
Sir.
A joke told once is an
This
insult.
vintage is superb.
A joke told every day
Join me,
becomes a
Senator,
ritual of
before it
dominance.
turns.
They
It trains the
say I
victim
am a
to anticipate
god.
pain and
Do
to
you believe them,
fantasize about
Senator?
escape.
Your
In
life
a soldier,
depends on the
that fantasy
sincerity of that
tends to become
smile.
a plan. Caligula has also made enemies inside his own household and administration men who have watched him break norms that even Rome's brutal
They say
politics
all roads
considered
lead to
dangerous.
Well,
He humiliates,
you've arrived.
confiscates,
Now
threatens,
let me show you
and then
why this
expects
city is
loyalty to
eternal.
remain automatic. But loyalty is not automatic when the tyrant has destroyed the incentive to live. A man who believes his future is already ruined becomes a man with nothing to lose, and nothing to lose is the most dangerous thing you can create inside a palace full of blades. The conspiracy forms the way conspiracies always form in tyrannies, quietly, selectively, and with a shared understanding that if you fail, you do not just die. You are torn apart, your family destroyed, your name erased.
The Emperor's new
That
decree
risk
is madness.
makes conspirators careful.
Lower
Caligula's
your voice,
machine has
fool, a
trained them
soldier.
to be careful. The irony is perfect. His own terror system produces the discipline required to kill it. January 41 A.D. The day of the assassination is not dramatic at first. It begins like any other day in an empire built on ritual. Caligula attends games and performances. He moves through spaces that are both public and private stages, where the emperor is always watched but rarely threatened. He is accustomed to seeing fear on faces. He thinks fear is loyalty. That is the mistake tyrants make when they live too long inside the mirror of their own power. Then he enters a narrow corridor of passage that compresses the world into stone and shadow. In such a place, an emperor's aura does not matter. There is no room for ceremony. There is only distance, timing, and steel. The conspirators strike fast. The sources describe a flurry of blows, a killing not of dignity but of necessity.
We
They
must act
stab
before
until
the
there
eye
is no
does.
doubt. They stab until the machine is silent. And then, because Rome has learned the brutal mathematics of succession, the violence spreads to the emperor's family. In a system where bloodlines are claims, an heir is a threat. So the threat is removed. The end
They
is
say
not
the legions
noble.
were routed,
It is not
completely
clean.
destroyed.
It
By
is
the
the
gods,
ugly
is it
logic
true?
of a state
What
where
will become of
legitimacy
us? We
is
must leave the
enforced with
city.
blades. For a brief moment, it seems possible the old republic might breathe again. The Senate debates, imagines restoring its authority, imagines rewinding history. But while senators speak, soldiers act. The Praetorian Guard, the true muscle behind imperial continuity, finds Claudius hiding and declares him emperor. In that instant, the
More
machine
wine, you
proves its
stinking
immortality. Caligula is
He can
dead,
barely
but the
stand,
structure that
yet
made
he still
Caligula
talks of
possible still
glory.
stands. The Guard has learned it can crown anemic rulers. The Senate has learned it can talk and still lose. Rome continues not because it healed, but because it adapted. That is the final horror of Caligula's terror machine. It did not die with him. It taught Rome lessons about fear, spectacle, and obedience that would echo through later reigns. The names change. The rituals remain. Absolute power does not only corrupt, it normalizes itself. It teaches people to live inside what should be unlivable until the unlivable becomes
No,
routine.
please, I beg you. I am
Comment
innocent.
below, was
Have
Caligula
mercy.
a singular monster, or was he the inevitable product of an empire that trained children to treat power as a weapon and fear as governance? Because if he was manufactured, then the factory matters more than the man. And if the factory survives, then the next monster is never a question of if, only when. This is Medieval Spirits. We dig up the bones of history to find the truth buried beneath the lies. If you stayed with me through this descent, subscribe, because Rome has more corridors like that one, and history has never run out of men
And then the
who
Gaulish
confuse
chieftain
terror
said,
with strength.
I thought you said the road to Rome was paved.
By Jupiter, that is dreadful. Tell it again.